All right, so let's talk more about the next steps in this legal showdown. Esther Pate is a criminal and civil attorney, and Pate is a criminal defense and constitutional attorney, and they are both joining me here in studio. What a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
Pate, I want to start with you because, again, right now there is no travel ban that's in effect, right?
Right, yeah.
So what is the advice to people who are in Iran or, Iraq, Syria, one of these affected countries by the executive order that was supposed to be affected? Would you tell them that they should be rushing to come to the United States before things possibly change?
Well, no one is entirely certain, but I think it really depends on your status. If you're in one of those countries and you have a reason to be in the United States, if you're already approved for a visa, and certainly if you're a legal permanent resident, get on the plane, come over, because all of the judges who've looked at this so far have been consistent in one thing, and that's that people with status can get into the United States. Now, if you do not have status, if you do not already have a visa, my advice would be different. Stay where you are at this point.
Why is that?
Because there's absolutely no certainty that you're even going to be considered once you get to the airport or to the border. So to run the risk of not being detained and sent back, I would avoid the trip until there's more clarity from the courts.
And Esther, it looks like you wanted to say something about that.
I agree, but I think everyone who has an individual issue needs to contact an immigration attorney in the United States before making the trip, just to make sure that it will go as smoothly as possible. We've seen people who believe that they could be here, who have come only to be held up for hours. So you want to make sure that somebody is waiting for you at the airport who knows what's going on, an immigration attorney, and someone who is in touch with your family, and so you know when the best time to come here is. Although there is a lot of chaos, so it's difficult to pinpoint, as Paige said, when one should come over, which is why it's so important.
And just quickly, because the chaos seems to have subsided for now, and I know last weekend there were a lot of attorneys who were swarming the airports, showing up kind of pro bono, holding up signs saying, need an attorney, I can help you. Do you have questions about your family members who are trying to get here? You were one of those attorneys, even though you're not an immigration attorney. What was that experience like, and what were the concerns and the questions that you were getting from the people that you met?
Well, I expected to go there essentially as a show of power, of legal power, with other lawyers, even most of us who didn't do or don't do immigration law, but just to be there to confront the Border Patrol or anyone else who tried to take away the rights that our clients had. So we were there, and really to see, we thought we would be there to bear witness. Instead, things went smoothly. The people we expected to come through were able to come through. There was a lot of anxiety, though, and speaking to people at the airport, they want some certainty.
Yeah.
What will happen? When will this happen? Can he keep doing this? Were the questions I was asked repeatedly.
Well, I guess those questions are still up in the air, right, Paige? So if we talk about what happens next, so right now as things stand, the Federal Appeals Court is waiting for these legal briefs or these legal papers. These written down arguments are written by both sides, and there are deadlines for later tonight, Sunday, and Monday afternoon. What kind of arguments are you expecting to hear from the plaintiff's side, from the state's side?
Well, there are a lot of arguments, but the first obstacle that the states have to get over is, do they even have standing to file this lawsuit? Can they even go to court to make this challenge? I think that's going to be a difficult argument. I mean, the states have tried to focus on economic harms. Tourist money is going to not be as much as it would otherwise. We wouldn't make the same tax revenue. Our public institutions will be harmed, our educational institutions, but that's really speculative. So President Trump's lawyers have said you can't point to any specific damages, and you really need to have standing. But if they get past that hurdle, then we go to the constitutional issues. Is this travel ban a violation of equal protection, due process, the Establishment Clause, all of those real thorny constitutional issues that the Ninth Circuit's going to have to wade through?
So these are written arguments and no oral arguments being made in court. And how quickly do you expect a decision to come down from this three-panel judge?
It's entirely up to the court. These judges will often take their time, especially if there's some disagreement between the judges on the panel. They may ask the lawyers to come in for oral argument, although that is not a requirement and doesn't always happen when there's an emergency stay motion like this. So it's hard to tell. A few days, a week, could be longer.
I was just looking at the makeup of the court, and among the three judges, two of them were appointed by Democratic presidents, one by a Republican president. Do you think that could kind of hinge on the outcome, help us predict that it may swing in favor of the states?
You know, Not so much.
Okay.
I think different from what we've seen in the Supreme Court, especially for older district court judges, like Judge Canby, who was appointed by President Carter. Once you've been on the bench for a while, you kind of find your own way, and I think you're less tied into a particular political ideology, and you're more independent. But we'll see. We haven't seen what they're going to do on these constitutional issues. But I don't think they're going to be tied into any particular political viewpoint.
But you're a constitutional lawyer. You predict, are you pretty confident that this is going to the Supreme Court of the United States?
I'm not confident about anything as far as this case is concerned. I am confident it will go to the Supreme Court eventually. Sure. But whether or not this particular panel of judges finds it constitutional or not constitutional, I really think it could go either way. And that's something that's a little bit different than what I think a lot of people are hearing. It's not clearly unconstitutional. It's not clearly constitutional. This is really a new issue, and it's something that these judges are going to have some difficulty with, whichever way they decide.
And Esther, where do you see this going?
Well, the Ninth Circuit is generally thought of as a more liberal circuit, so there's that. But you never know, and judges will make rulings based on the law and the facts in front of them. And I have every confidence that they will do that in this case. They know the world is watching, and they will do what they believe is their duty under the Constitution.
Now, when you say you're not exactly confident about what's going to happen next, I think you speak for much of the country. Right. Paige Pate and Esther Pate, thank you so much for your expertise and your analysis. Thank you. In the meantime,